We have nice beaches, we have good weather, and we're all incredibly good looking. Yeah. No. G'day, I'm Tobias from Grow Impact. I'm the General Manager and Founder. So Grow Impact is a software as a service for research organisations to show their supporters, whether they're funders or stakeholders, how the investment they make in the research organisation is really making a difference by progressing that research journey. So we have really good growth. We're very excited that we're actually now getting large organisations like GO8 universities, the biggest research organisations in Australia, coming to us wanting to use our product. Well, I'm a researcher. I've been a researcher for about a decade, California, Australia, biotech and academia. So my inspiration really was I wanted researchers to have good support for what they were doing, and I wanted them to do really good research. And so Grow Impact's actually born out of one of the largest research organisations, medical research organisations in Australia, the Telethon Kids Institute. And that's where it was born as their corporate product. And what we're doing now at Grow Impact is helping share that with the world. The challenge of research is it takes a really long time. So you might be talking 10 or 15 years and a lot of money. Sometimes, depending on the problem, we're talking millions and millions of dollars. And you have multiple stakeholders and investors putting into that research journey over time, and they want to know where their money's going. So they're no longer, I suppose, satisfied with people just writing them a story and sort of, I suppose, pitching it to them in a certain way. They actually want a little bit more transparency and accountability in terms of, I'm giving you $200,000. I know it's a long journey. I know it's 10 years. Show me where it fits in and show me how I'm helping you get close to those end goals. So the first thing that we do is we enable the researchers to map out a really high level how they're going to get there. So what's the need for the problem you're trying to solve? What is the problem? And what's your intended impact, even that's 10 or 15 years down the track? And so they can map out the steps that they need to achieve to get there. But, people just talking about that, well, that's fine. You need some evidence to back it up, right? So the other part of the system helps collect the evidence from the researchers of their research activities, what they've been doing, who they're talking to, but they can then link that to that research journey and trajectory, and that gives it the context. Instead of just saying we've done more stuff, it says we've done more research, but it's actually helping move us along towards solving that big problem that's close to your heart as a stakeholder. Now, it's a really interesting question because there are a lot of possibilities. I think global expansion is actually something we're working on already now. So a lot of the people we talk to in the UK and Canada, because it's a SaaS product, we can actually use it globally, particularly very easily in English-speaking countries, which is where I guess a large majority of research is done, if you're counting the US as well. But then you start to think about the types of problems we're solving, those 10 or 15-year journeys, and that those journeys might not always be linear. We need evidence of progress. Those are very similar across all different realms of research and development, whether it's in an industrial organisation or within a construction company or with an engineering firm. So our long-term goal is to actually, I suppose, share it more broadly beyond just your research organisation. There's all the organisations that need to understand how those big projects are tracking. Yeah, we are just first starting to go now. We've been spun out since June, but I moved across in September of last year. So it's been about 6 months. So we're a B2B platform, so often entering these large organisations that have thousands and thousands of employees and trying to land that B2B customer is somewhat of a challenge. So what we do is we have appropriate pricing to really compensate for that long lead time. The great part about that is that once they're on board, they stay on, we think from my experience, between 5 to 8 years. So they actually get retained for a long time. So that's probably the immediate challenge right now is, I suppose, getting some of those large customers across the line. Part of the way that we're dealing with that is we've diversified our model so that we can actually target any unit within that research ecosystem. So it's not just a university or a funder. It's also someone that's working at the program level or the team level or in a centre or an institute. So all those small aggregates of work can also become subscribers to Grow Impact. Well, I guess the problem with that question is I always just sleep like a baby. I think, I'm very pragmatic about how I approach these things, and I plan well and I execute. So, yeah, I sleep well. Everybody wants to plan and execute, but yeah, I think you just need to um, have good expectations of yourself and what your business can do, but always push the envelope a little bit to make sure you're always challenging yourself to get to the next milestone. So part of the reason I'm in this, I suppose, in Grow Impact is that I also play a little bit of a thought leadership role in this space in Australia. So we're working with the peak body for medical research in Australia, research institutes in Australia, to launch a framework which is essentially a language of communicating impact with their external stakeholders. And so we're actually launching that this week, which is really exciting. It's a national event with guest speakers from Canada and also the UK, with over 300 attendees signed up. So that's what I do the other spare part of my time, but it actually fits in really well with my passion, which is about understanding how impactful research organisations are. I was just really idealistic, so I ended up working in a biotech as for my PhD. But for me, it was around understanding something they call central dogma. So it's around how do we turn DNA into proteins, and how do those proteins actually work in terms of inside our body. So I wanted to work on something really basic. So I worked on something about how all the little machinery works when you're turning something from DNA into a message and then into a protein in a particular type of bacterium. So that started small as actually an ag biotech. And then I was lucky enough to work with a Nobel laureate, Barry Marshall, on Helicobacter pylori, before then going across to the States to work with a couple of different professors in academia, I suppose, on protein engineering. And lastly, I came back to Telethon Kids and worked on repurposing drugs for childhood brain cancers. But then I decided that I wanted to do more to support researchers. So I moved into the professional realm, and that's where I started my impact journey with a really good, solid foundation, understanding how researchers work and what they need. And I moved into this role where I could really better support and, I suppose, help researchers achieve what they need to achieve, which is impacts in health. I don't think it's that different. We had a little bit of a chat about this before, but I see academics as really small business owners, so they're usually responsible for finding their own salary and their own grant funding. And if they don't deliver on their milestones or deliver on that funding and produce productive outcomes, they often have the possibility of losing their team and perhaps even their own position. So it's a fairly, you can see some fairly, I suppose, clear analogies between what we do here in the startup world, which is growing a business and creating sustainability, and what someone is doing in managing a research team where they have essentially a bucket of seed funding and they need to grow from there to create something that's going to be sustainable as a program and also throughout their career as well. This is probably one of the questions where I didn't really have a good answer. Look, I think something I've been proud of really recently is when we got our first unsolicited lead. So it's when people have started to come to us. So our product's available in June because we're building what was a corporate or legacy product from Telethon Kids. But people have got wind of what we're doing and they're starting to see the value in our approach and talk to us more about, how we could be useful for their organisation. So that was a fantastic moment. Yeah. I suppose that's the challenging question for me because I'm a man with no regrets. So I always own the decisions I make, and I do feel sometimes they weren't good decisions, but and I do take time to be retrospective about it. But it's all about the future and about the opportunities for going forward, and that's just the way I work. So I found this I find it a really hard question to answer because I don't tend to stew over those things. I try and learn from them and get on with, I suppose, the next steps. Yeah. There certainly are a few moments in my life where I dwell and I do have regrets, but I think just taking that attitude of like, okay, everybody makes mistakes. It's normal. It's acceptable. Let's just learn from this and let's just move on and focus on all the great, fantastic things in life. I'm very big on, looking at the silver linings. Well, the cup of tea helps in the morning, but I love mornings. I just love it's a crisp new day. It's bright. It's usually blue here in Perth. And, it's the best time of day to wake up. It's beautiful and the ocean's nice and cool. And if I do manage to get out for a surf, it clears the head for starting a great day and I suppose approaching things with a new perspective and I suppose a new I suppose, best sense of motivation. Yeah.
Do you live close to the ocean here?
I don't. I have to travel to the ocean to get to it. I'm not that wealthy. But yeah, I think everybody has something they do in their life for balance. Mine is, I suppose, going for a bit of a surf or a swim every now and then, and also spending time with my family. And I think I've worked with a lot of different people all over the world, those who are workaholics and those who had balance. And some of the most successful people I ever worked with, those that worked smart and had balance. So I know it can be done, and that's how I try and run my life. Well, it's interesting. I think I've always been involved in the startup community. So my PhD was in a startup. My first 2 postdocs are in biotech startups. So I'm not, I guess I'm familiar with how it all works. But actually getting involved in the tech startup community, that was actually through Derek Gerard and the +8 program. And that was a real fantastic introduction into the tech area for myself that had come from that corporate environment. Now, we're lucky enough that our mentor through +8 joined us as our executive chairman, Nick Saunders. And so he brings that great credibility, knowledge, and wisdom from the tech sector, and is always sharing with me his insights and learning. So yeah, it's been really good. And look, +8 was essential for us. We were in a corporate environment. And again, I did come from a quite different background. So what it provided me is with the missing link, helping me to turn something that was a legacy corporate product into something that's actually, I suppose, going to be a sustainable product for the rest of the world. And all those learnings from the +8 program have been invaluable for us growing as an organisation. And I have to say that probably the biggest part for me is being involved in +8 is having the alumni that's extended beyond that +8 program. So the people that we meet regularly, have a cup of coffee or a beer with, where we can actually share stories and common learnings about how we're growing our companies, but also challenge each other about why aren't you doing this, and what are you going to be doing next? And so that's really valuable for us. And of course, there's also the mentorship that's been provided through the program as well, through having meetings with Derek and Isabel, but also with our exec chair, Nick Saunders. Yeah, I think, out of sight, out of mind, right? So people might think, oh, what would I want to go there for? People have a great lifestyle. There's no pressure. You can't make diamonds without pressure. But the reality is we've been isolated for a long time. It's easier now, but isolation breeds innovation. So I think people in Perth are actually really good at solving problems, and they don't rely on other people to do it for them. They are collaborative. And I think that's something that's become a real strength of what we do here in Perth. Yeah. We have nice beaches, we have good weather, and we're all incredibly good looking. Yeah. No. Okay, don't cut that out. That there are 2 of me walking around. I have an identical twin. He has short hair, but if you see him on the street and I ignore you, it's because it's not me, it's someone else. The other part is I love a bit of a surf, and I'm a sucker for B-grade science fiction movies. So any movie where I think's got an interesting concept, no matter how bad it is, I'll generally give it a go. And we talked about life regrets earlier. I think I've lost a few hours to B-grade sci-fi over the years. Yeah. Have a bit of fire in your belly. Enjoy your life and know where to draw the line, and create balance. Balance gives you time to be creative and to actually build new and interesting things, and that's what will make you happy. Spend time with your family, get good balance. I'm Tobias Schoep, and this is Untitled.